Try to connect digital twin and information security. We are a critical infrastructure operator, and some of you I've seen today, you do it too. And yeah, probably information security is also important when you want to do digital twins of humans, or when you have very costly plants, industry plants that you need to protect. I'll take some time to introduce Amprion. No one of you that I had the chance to talk today actually knows Amprion. So I will then introduce our approach to digital twin and then try to identify synergies to information security. And this is then demonstrated with two use cases. Well, we are a transmission service operator for electricity. That means that we provide a stable and secure electricity grid with non-discriminatory access to cover the needs of economy and energy transition. Our role is not security of supply. So when there's not enough generation, we just make sure that the grid is not damaged by it. So we switch loads off, whatever. And it's then our task to black start the grid again. And then again, make sure that we get synchronized across the whole of Europe. We do what you need. I mean, we transmit electricity for the economy, so it's kind of you define what we need to do. And the drawback is that you also have to pay what we do. In our control area, it's shown on the right-hand side. Well, it's from Netherlands border down south to Austria. We are the western part of Germany. It is like 29 million people served, third of the German gross domestic product. And yeah, it's 63 gigawatt of generation capacity. I think it's the second most generation capacity in one control area in Europe. France got more. Our operations include 11,000 kilometers of overhead lines. This is what you see on the right-hand side, and 160 substations. Substations are, yeah, let's say where two lines or several lines connect, and there you can switch. Some substations also got transformers, where we then connect our customers. Our customers are regional distribution grids. We have a very few industry. The largest industries of the continent is connected to our grid, and of course the largest power plants. We've got 2,000 employees and have an annual turnover of 12.3 billion euro. But unfortunately, or fortunately, 75% of that it's only the remuneration for renewable tariffs. These 75%, that's on your electricity bill about 7 to 8 cents per kilowatt hour. Our cost of the grid is integrated in your electricity bill about 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. We got 25 billion euro grid projects to come for the next 10 years. We got to build offshore wind. We got to integrate offshore wind from the North Sea, and the idea is to build direct current power lines to the northern part of North Rhine-Westphalia, where the transmission grid is very strong traditionally. So we can no longer integrate offshore wind into the grid clear and close to the sea. So we got to take it more inland. And another aspect of the large projects is to build direct current lines to the south of Germany. The idea is to replace the huge generators, nuclear power generators, with the endpoints of direct current lines. From an information perspective, Amprion is quite simple. Well, we got the business domain. In this is a critical infrastructure domain, and well, of course, there's partners. They also got their business domain, and many of our partners also got critical infrastructure. This is, well, we are embedded in the public, of course. The core competence is, speaking in terms of information, is to transfer information between the business and infrastructure domain, and of course to run and organize information processing in both domains. I will predominantly refer today about transfer between infrastructure and business domain, but of course we also need to exchange with other business partners. There's the whole Europe is interconnected. The critical infrastructure is interconnected, and we get in data from the public domain, where we especially take care of integrity and availability. There's a lot of change to be done. The drivers are, well, we have several specialized more and more markets to serve, and the trade intervals getting shorter, the markets getting larger. We get now the world's largest electricity market in Europe. Well, it is, you can buy in the whole of Europe energy 30 minutes ahead of delivery, and in Germany you can buy 5 minutes ahead of delivery, quite any quantity you want. It is, but still there's many more events and less lead time to react. We have to consider more smaller units to control large numbers, but those units, they react less on signals. For example, some also act on purpose against the global optimum, or they have incentives to do their own local optimum. Some units do not react at all because they don't have to. Yeah, we have more grid projects, they all take longer. There's a lot of more to coordinate, and the decentralized and unbundled systems involves many more actors. We can say that we have to scale up to factor 100 the the information processing. And this means that we really have to sit back and think about it. We cannot just buy some IT and employ 100 times more people and then it's okay. No, we really need to figure out where do we need to scale and how can we do it. We really need to analyze the processes, our organization. And this is how we came to think about the digital twin. What I will talk today about is, well, information transfer into the critical infrastructure domain. That's a core task. I can show you how this gets done better with the digital twin and how we open up new degrees of freedom but still maintain information security. On the left-hand side, that's reality. I mean, 80 years of service life. Some of our oldest assets. But what we dream, of course, that's to have a single source of input, single source of truth. And we want the wisdom of age and the latest innovation in one thing, and it looks really flawless. That's the digital twin. But what we have on the left-hand side, it's kind of fragments, a lot of fragments. You can already see this kind of, well, organized. Two domains are intelligible, but the interconnection is still not yet very well ordered. Where we can get is a picture, but still made of fragments. There are still several areas covered by sand, so it's not clear whether we can organize that at all. But, well, so our idea was, hey, let's work it out. Let's identify all those fragments, put it together. That's, well, a kind of solution thinking approach. We need to organize these components. We tried to do it like this. We need to describe what is existing and what we can observe. That's the content of the digital twin. We got, of course, a lot of assets distributed, and we also need to represent intangible assets like balancing accounts or capacity margins. Topology is a very surprisingly complex thing with us because we have geography, we have an electrical topology, and we have market topologies, and unfortunately it is not aligned. The market topology is not aligned with the electrical physical grid. Yeah. We have, what we can observe is, of course, a lot of time series and event records. We need to describe all this. That's what we call the semantic backbone. It is basically a data scheme, so data models, and what we call a business glossary. Today, some people called it an ontology. That's it. We got to say what we want to do with a digital twin. It's, of course, business processes and man-machine interaction. And we want to know how the digital twin evolves, and that's mathematical modeling, basically. Today, I want to come back in detail to, of course, the business context. We need to know what information goes in, comes out of processes. And we need the semantic backbone, heavily needed. We also want to include some governance records in the business glossary. We need to know, for example, responsibilities, ownerships, and data schemes, of course, they are used to transfer, to store, to process content. Now getting from concept to delivery, this is how we do it. It is, we got the data lab, 7 FTE for 2 years and 2 more when it is evaluated positively. It's kind of a think tank of the CTO. We have a steering committee for strategically integrating into the rest of the company. We have a sounding board, kind of technical advisory. And what we do in the first place is know the status quo. I mean, it's kind of, we begin to have a digital twin of our own organization today, or maybe yesterday, 2020. Second or first step is then to do to design Amprion based on a digital twin. We do it with enough time ahead, let's say 10 years. Could be 15, could be 8. That's not that important. But we are setting a lighthouse in the future. Continuously, we'll do gap monitoring and project coordination. Projects means, of course, we will initiate projects steering by the data lab, but there are a lot of projects with the business units. They all, when you talk to them, they all say, "Oh, we already did it. We're already doing it. It's a digital twin. We got it." But we got to make sure that the fragments will fall in place, and in the future, there's kind of interoperability. Okay, that was how we want to do the digital twin. Now that's description of the status quo. I tried to do it in the most simple scheme. we have a business context, business processes. They use or create content. Content is available in a data scheme or in more than one data scheme. It is applications that read or write data schemes, and the applications support processes or are used in processes. Yeah, of course, there is responsibilities, human and resources. There's humans attached everywhere, but I had to drop it. Now the digital twin comes into play. Some content is contained in the digital twin, but not all content. We have several data schemes which are part of the digital twin, or the digital twin delivers data schemes which are then available, but still there's a lot of data schemes around which are not digital twin. We have applications that implement components of the digital twin, but applications implement a lot of other components too. So, well, that's what we think is we have to work closely together with the enterprise architects and try to get a future perspective of enterprise architecture. The link between component and business context is just the dotted line, because, well, in fact, when you just multiply all those triangles and squares, you get the dotted lines. We'll come now to the information security. Maybe, sorry, this one. The term single source of input, single source of truth. I think we cannot just install it or buy it. Probably in this scheme, it's like a key structural parameter which you can measure or which you can evaluate from this from your status quo documentation. We can define a single source of truthness that we want to have in the future. This is also influenced by, for example, performance considerations or security. And then we can evolve our IT landscape to get closer to this key figure. Information security. Let's first distinguish power system security. I mean the stability of the power system. It's not what I mean. Safety, personal safety or asset safety. That's not what I mean. I mean, really it's the default information security. I will later come to examples about protection device parameters. And this is why I try to explain it here already. Of course, protection device parameters is vital ingredient for having power system security. But my example is not about how to get better protection device parameters or how to get faster protection device parameters. It is how to transfer, how to get the protection device parameters there where you need it to the protection devices. Information security is, well, it gets the requirements from the processes that use content. The famous integrity, availability, and confidentiality. Some content is then classified content with limited access. Information security is also concerned with maintaining security when applications are used, and it's also about managing risk of applications. Probably you have noticed they all build upon the same status quo documentation. And that's actually the first message, that information security and digital twin share large parts of the status quo documentation. Please do not try to do information security on one thing of the documentation and digital twin on the other thing. You will never get it together because both is very complex, even complicated. and you will probably lose control of all that. So it's a shared cost case when you need arguments about return on invest or business cases. Well, when you do all this kind of status quo documentation, please use it and reuse it. Yeah. Maturity and coverage of these two disciplines will then co-develop. And well, we'll come to the use cases now, and I think I got some time to explain it a little bit more in detail. The situation, well, the example is protection device parameters. There's devices deployed in the grid. If something goes wrong, it triggers and protects our assets or even cities, generators, power stations. And we calculate, or we determine protection device parameters in the business domain, because changes of these parameters are usually triggered by the business domain. For example, there's a project, a grid project. We need to deactivate a line to do some maintenance. That is, well, it's the business domain who pull the trigger, and they are also able to define protection schemes which need to change, because when we have hundreds of lines and one is missing, this affects electricity. They're all interconnected. It affects the other lines. So we have to sometimes change all those parameters. But of course, these protection devices are highly sensitive. We cannot just have a shared application or just do a Ethernet connection or something like this. It's not. That's not what we want, and it's also not a good idea to have a shared application, because the things are really entirely different. So there's a gap, what you call it. The business domain and the critical infrastructure domain, they each got their domain-specific content. Business domain creates then a PDF and sends it over. The receiver is a highly qualified engineer. He needs to translate this content over to his domain. It's probably, it sounds easy, but it is not. There's a dozen of manufacturers of protection devices. We have old ones, new ones. Some are updated, some are not. So it ends up with 100 different sorts of protection devices. And this is now the idea where we come in. This guy here has no idea about this device. He just can give a new protection scheme. This guy here has no idea about the protection scheme. He just knows his devices. So, in fact, what we're trying to do now is to use a semantic backbone. Well, okay, the first thing is, of course, the governance is well defined. There's a shared content between both domains. So then they are able to start, or they can begin to do a governance. Who is responsible for what? It's not possible when there's separate content. And it is also possible to share object identifiers. So it's, of course, much easier than to translate the document. The business domain updates a single point of input. Transfer artifact is still a PDF, so you think, okay, what's better? What is inside the PDF? That's the difference. This is inside the PDF is content that is representable in the receiving domain's data scheme. We think we can save several engineer FTEs, full-time equivalents. We need those engineers really to do more advanced things. It's not, we cannot employ more of these people just to translate documents. We think that, well, this is a kind of bottleneck. We have seen today in several cases that it's quite, well, you can buy IT that collects data and puts it all in the cloud. So there's no bottleneck. I mean, I think many of you could help us. We can do it. The bottleneck is more than take the data out of some cloud or out of some data center, out of some digital twin, and then make it act in the real world again. That's, in our case, the bottleneck. So that's how we want to address it. Second example is a project. I told you about the difficulty with the protection device parameters. Lots of manufacturers, they are not interested to converge towards a data scheme. But we need it, so it's not there yet. We can, using the digital twin, we can even do a public project. Content is highly sensitive, but really product information about a protection device, that's not really sensitive. Data schemes are not really sensitive, so we can collaborate on that. We can collaborate on the digital twin, and the project will then deliver a data format, but not a piece of software. Because a piece of software is always tricky. That's relevant, well, for information security. A data format, not yet. We have an advantage for this project because information security needs to come in late. Or they come in early and say, whoa, okay, nothing relevant for us, we'll come back later in the second stage. Okay, our information security people are then free to focus on security measures instead of nursing data, caring for data. And the project is free to produce a product and to soundly proof it. And that's also a huge advantage. We get better proof products with a digital twin. I wanted to show you that digital twin and information security, in fact, are allies. That because both they share artifacts, and that's a shared cost case also for you. And we see that air gaps are necessary. They are a kind of bottleneck, but we can overcome the bottleneck using a digital twin by reducing the overhead. And in this example, digital twin opened up new degrees of freedom for innovating under high security constraints. Yeah, thanks a lot for attending. I hope to discuss later. For example, was this all just a reiteration of basic digital transformation, or is it really new? I hope I could not really talk about what we do, but I show you how we do it. I hope you could have adapted or help you somehow. And what I'm really interested in, do you maintain a kind of digital twin component register? We are losing track of it. It's maybe hundreds. We need to organize it. We need a tool to do it. It's not yet there. And finally, what do you think about synergies between digital twin and information security. Yeah, thank you.